cracks?
Well, I think there's a bit of both in it, Pat. I think there's no question the Kerry support came out, which was a surprise. You know, there was a big crowd in Killarney. We know Longford brought 6,000 or 7,000, but Kerry came out in support of the team. It's always interesting when there's a mini crisis, how the county reacts to it. And I think, you know, by putting Donny in full forward, they took the pressure off Colm Cooper and Michael Frank, and all of a sudden the forward line started to move freely. Owen Brosnan was back at centre forward, and they looked a potent force. Now, you know, people would say that was against the Longford full back line. What will it be like against Armagh? We won't be able to tell that story till next weekend. But one thing for certain is Kerry have played games now over the last 3 or 4 weeks. They're getting to know themselves. They probably have issues in that Tomato Shea hasn't hit form at all this year. Thomas Sullivan was in big trouble on David Barden, and you know, at midfield they took off Tommy Griffin and ended up bringing out Donaghy for the last 20 minutes, which was a surprise, because you know they should have been able to contain Longford.
John O'Mahony, Jack O'Connor said after the game he hoped the show is back on the road. Do you think the Kerry show is back on the road?
Well, there's certain aspects of it. It's certainly, I think that as Tommy said there, they have rejigged their full forward line and they look a threat again. I mean, the problem for them will be if they can get enough ball in, and I think probably they still have some issues to answer in the defence.
Many supporters I spoke to today said they reverted to type in the second half. They stopped the long ball, they went back to the slow ponderous build-up, and if they do that next Saturday, kamikaze. Yeah,
I mean, what you'd have to say about next Saturday is that they are against Seamus Moynihan, might be trying to pile the pressure there on Armagh, but in reality, Armagh are one of the better team, the best team, if not the better teams, if not the best team in the country, and this will make or break Kerry next Saturday.
I mean, Longford were very impressive yesterday, lads.
They were, Pat, and you have to give enormous credit to the whole management, the whole players. I mean, the players, when Kerry hit them with 3-2 or something in the space of, I don't know, 5 or 8
never
or
dropped
10
the
minutes.
heads.
They never, every time Kerry got a goal, they went up and got a point. And that was to their credit, Pat.
You were impressed by the two Bardens, particularly in the first 20 minutes, the way they opened up the Kerry defence.
I was, Pat. David Barden is still a very young footballer. I think he's only 22, 23 years of age. Same age as Alan Brogan or Paul Griffin. And Paul Barden is that bit older. But, like, they destroyed Kerry. And we have a clip of it coming up. Where in the first 14, 15 minutes, you know, this is in on Thomas Sullivan. I mean, there's no way at this level you should be allowing a man get in like that. I think actually the keeper made a good save there. And here's Paul Barden again, skinning some of the Kerry defenders for pace. And they were kicking easy scores. Armagh kicked scores like this the next day without any problem. And again, turning the Kerry defence. And you know, this should have been a goal. This should have been a goal. And this was all in the first 15 minutes when Kerry were getting the goals the other end. They were still under awful pressure in their own defence. The biggest concern Kerry have gone into the next day is they just can't get that defensive unit working that worked 2 or 3 years ago.
John, I think Jim Carney referred to an interview, a star is born. A newcomer to this year's championship. He's been very impressive. Brian Kavanagh, you liked his play?
Yeah, he was very impressive. I mean, Luke Dempsey has done a fantastic job. Longford have been the team of this year's qualifiers, really.
The Whitman boys last year.
And the future of Longford football is in players like Brian Kavanagh. He got 1-6 yesterday, and you know, not just in some previous games. I think a lot of them were from frees, but yesterday he did it from play as well. And he's 19 years of age, and really he has come of age, and he just represents, if you like, the future of Longford, and the trick for them will be to repeat this championship run next year.
And Longford bet Derry as well, let's not forget, right? And that was a huge win for Longford.
So it's a great sign for all weaker counties that show with belief and commitment anything is possible.
Well, I passionately believe, Pat, there is no county in this country, maybe 2 or 3 outside 2 or 3, that cannot compete at a provincial level in their
for the most part, but for the most part, people say that the qualifiers are for the strong teams, and so it has proved when Tyrone winning the All-Ireland through the back door. But it's also good for Galway as well. We won't let you forget that, Tommy. But it's also good for the Longfords of this world who can develop. They have been together now for 5 or 6 months. They have developed that team.
Last weekend in July, and they're still in the championship.
And they'll be bursting to come back to the
listen,
league.
lads, you're talking about all the positives from Longford. Have you got any positives from Kerry point of view?
Well, Pat, there is positives from Kerry point of view. There's no question Kerry are still a very good football team. They've obviously hit a little crisis of confidence. They weren't good either day against Cork. I don't believe they're dead and buried by no means. And
4 goals yesterday.
And 4 goals. And you know, I think we picked out a few clips here where you look at some of the good. But Mark O'Shea is probably their best player this year, pound for pound. But you look at what Donny did. Don't mind the goals here. This is what they'll do an awful lot more in Croke Park. Little tap down to Russell, and no longer are defenders now having to watch Cooper and Russell. They have to now watch a big fella. This is Darragh O'Shea, who I think is still one of the best midfielders. There's going to be one hell of a big game in Darragh O'Shea next week. From a goalie to a midfielder to a point. It happens in hurling, it rarely happens in football. And you know,
yeah, the bomber is reinvented in Donaghy, I feel.
Yeah. Bomber was the missing piece of the jigsaw in the 70s and 80s. Do you think this is the missing piece of the jigsaw for this year?
There is a great chance that he is. And Frank Russell's he's got very little games over the last couple of years.
And Cooper kicking 2 or 3 great points here. Bill's not getting the confidence going again.
Can Russell do what Crowley did in 2004?
But I mean, would you say then that it's a very predictable tactic, and Jay, up against seasoned campaigners like Armagh, they'll easily cut out the supply?
Armagh played long ball into Ronan Clark, very predictable tactic. They're at it for 3 years, and still nobody can stop it. Do you know what I mean?
I'd say as we speak, Joe Kernan is sitting down with his notes, studying how to counteract it.
Well, actually, I heard he was with Billy Joel in Croke Park last night. I don't know what he learned from Billy Joel.
He's with Francie Bellew as we speak.
OK, gentlemen, time now for a short break. Do stay with us, though. We've highlights next of it being a great game of football. Which one was it?
Miko has described a lot of games down the years as a great game of football.
Poetic license.
But again, I think we have to take the wind as a factor. It wasn't as bad as some of the other games we've seen this weekend, but it wasn't by any means a great game. But again, it's another metre along the road or inch along the road for Laois rehabilitation that they have done so well, and Miko has done so well this year.
Digging deeper than 2 words you'd normally associate with Laois teams in the past, but as Brendan referred to, they're digging deep now, aren't they?
They are, and I think they've improved a lot of things that they had problems with earlier in the year, and they're, again, it shows maybe sometimes the stronger teams, it's better if they are to go out, that they go out early on, not at provincial final level. And but at this stage, they had that ahead of Offaly today. It's a short time since Offaly lost the Leinster final.
Tommy, you described the Donegal man as typical bad Ulster football. This was just as bad a game for probably the same reasons, was it?
Well, you see, you have to understand, Laois Offaly is a local derby. It's like a Mayo Gaw, it's like a Cork Kerry. There's a lot of local rivalry there. I mean, the border, Port Arlington, there's half of Port Arlington is in Offaly and half is in Laois. And like, there's 2 clubs there, Gracefield in Offaly and St. Joe. So there's a huge rivalry there that kind of takes the chance of it being a good football game nearly out. Then put it in a provincial ground and you've very little chance. And I just think that Offaly didn't play at all today. I mean, Laois looked good. They looked like they were, confidence is back. The confidence in a lot of players is back. The one element I'd be worried about in Laois was their full forward line today didn't really fire. And that's a concern for them.
But Tommy, scoring 4 points in a game as Offaly did has nothing to do with playing against your neighbour.
No, it was just bad, Pat. I mean, Offaly, I think, mentally tuned themselves in to try and beat Dublin in Croke Park. They put up a huge effort, and
they threw in the towel today.
And they just didn't seem to want to play today.
And they have a bad record in the qualifiers.
Very bad.
That's what was proved again today.
John, we saw Laois being destroyed around the middle third of the field by Dublin in the Leinster semi-final. But since then, that's the area where they've dominated, isn't it, for Laois?
Well, they have, and I think Brendan Quigley has, he came on in that game when Pádraig Clancy went off, and he looked a rookie, really, but he has grown into the position, and he did very well today. Pádraig Clancy came back after his injury today.
Noel Gavin has been a big disappointment.
He has, but I mean, again, they're still in the championship, and he could have a lot to contribute as well. So that was one of the areas that they did have difficulties with
Brendan Quigley, John, looked a boy against Dublin,
Yeah, and look, we have clips here of him, of a win, great takes in the middle of the field, and really dominating, and scoring as well, going right through the heart of the Offaly.
He has blossomed over the last 4 or 5 weeks, Pat. That going out early has given Miko the chance to get him through, because against Dublin he didn't look like he was good enough.
And Tommy, you were very impressed by the way Laois counter-attacked from deep.
Yeah, well, Laois' strength of the team is running with the ball, Miko's style.
Fit.
Yeah, Miko has, Miko, as I say, has gone back to Mammy down in Laois. He's got rid of everybody, all these specialists, and even the bomber got fired. And like they're fantastic at breaking out with the ball. Joe Higgins was very good today, and you know,
their defence was clean against Dublin, and here you see what they're doing here.
He's
and
rejigged
down
it.
the field.
He's rejigged it. He's put Joe Higgins back where he should be, left corner back.
Darren Rooney full back.
Darren Rooney full back, put a bit of steel at full back. And, you know, like, that's a great Munnelly point. Munnelly now, who wasn't fit for the Dublin game. Nobody can tell me he was fit, because he wasn't up to the pace of the game at all. He's got another 3 or 4 weeks under his belt where he's starting to play. And, like, this is a fantastic... This is as good a goal as we've had in the Championship. You know, Pádraig Clancy got through against Dublin, Cluxton saved, this time in the back of the net, game over.
And significantly, Tom Kelly was in the middle of that as well. Their half-back line is really coming forward.
And against Dublin, they were blitzed in the middle third of the field. Tom Kelly, all men you should say, you know, were good footballers, didn't get a kick.
Come here, Eve picked out another piece of VT involving a Mayerishka. Please explain, lads, for the uninformed.
Well, what happened here is a couple of years ago, Tom and myself were actually on a committee that recommended that water needed to be get onto the field. Now, in this case, the danger is coming into a crowded area like it was there today. The Mayerishka there, you know, he was trying in a way to keep the peace maybe, but he when players see somebody coming on or intrusion from outside, it can lead to a heated
too many fellas going on the field.
Well, I don't know if there's too many. I think it's a very important and important thing that players are getting water. Particularly, we've had as hot a summer as we've ever had. But I think when a guy goes in with a bottle of water, that's what he should be doing. And he shouldn't be going into a bunch where there's a bunch of players.
Yeah.
He should be going out singly to a fella and giving him some water.
Okay, man of the match time, Tommy. Will contenders?
Well, certainly Brendan Quigley was a major contributor to the game today. Pádraig Clancy when he came on. Tom Kelly was, to me, back to his best, and Kieran McManus, you know, was the lone heart there of Offaly today.
Cheer up Joe Brawley.
You know, I'm sure it will cheer up Joe, but like Kieran gave us all for Offaly, as he always has done, good or bad. But you know,
John,
I think
the man of the match.
But the man of the match, when it all was said and done, I'd say by a fair bit, was Joe Higgins. I thought he was absolutely superb today. He was back to his best. He had a knee operation a few years ago, but all through the game today, he took ball in the air. He's not a big man,
he's
but
5'6".
See the way he took that ball, and he, again, balls that he had to win. And remember, what we have to remember here is that Thomas Deehan and Niall McNamee were the big scoring threat.
And they gave Dublin awful.
They didn't score at all today.
And
Deehan, Joe's man, was taken off towards the end of the game. So that sums it up.
Well, after the match, Joe Higgins spoke to our man, Con Murphy.
Well, a really fantastic performance from Joe Higgins means he's the RTE Bank of Ireland man of the match. Joe, congratulations. Great performance by you and the team.
Yeah, I suppose it was a great team performance, you know. There's never too much between ourselves and Offaly, but we got some lucky breaks, you know, and we got there in the end. Just good team performance.
To keep their full forward line scoreless was a fine achievement.
I didn't know that, but yeah, it's going well, I suppose, all year, you know. Two lads in there, they're usually a two-man full forward line. We had great respect for them coming in today, but we had lots of lads coming back and helping out, you know. Like Brendan Quigley, Darren was there helping out the whole time, Gilly, you know. It was a real team performance.
Lads, we're now down to the quarter-finals. Expected 8, Tommy?
Well, there's two teams, Donegal and Westmeath, that weren't there last year. The two teams that were there last year are Galway and Tyrone, and other than that, the same 6. So there's a consistency there, and there's 6 teams getting there. And I think if you take it, the batting order last year was Tyrone, Kerry, Armagh. Then you had Dublin and Cork maybe at the next group, and then you had Laois, you know, below them. This year, certainly Dublin have made strides. They're certainly a better team than they were last year. I think Kerry probably have come back a tad. Armagh still seem to be clinical. They still seem to be getting better with every championship game. And I think Cork could be my surprise package.
And I think Westmeath, I think of all of the 8, deserve the most credit for getting back. You know, when Paddy left last year, you know, they looked a forlorn shape of what they were in 2004, but I think Tomás O'Flaherty has done very well. And I think, I don't expect them to beat Dublin, but right. I think...
Let's analyse the top of the Cork against Donegal. Donegal with just 6 days to prepare.
Graham Canty, huge loss to Cork. Donegal just might edge that one.
I think Cork didn't play against Kerry last year in the All-Ireland semi-final. I think there's a lot of good work done in Cork this year, and I think they'll get to a semi-final.
Kerry against Armagh, Kerry underdogs. Can Kerry finally get this monkey off their back? The northern teams, they've struggled against them.
I think if they win the ball, they'll do it, but I think that they have difficulties in defence, and I think Armagh might expose them and get past them.
Armagh have been clinical this year. I think this game, I think Armagh in their training programme had this game for the semi-final. I think they would have preferred it for the semi-final.
You said earlier today you expect no Ulster team to make the semi-final. That'll make you popular up north.
Well, Pat, I think a very good bet is a Kerry, Cork, Dublin, Laois All-Ireland semi-finals. And I think that you get good odds in that, Pat.
Right, the Dubs raging hot favourites, can they handle it?
Well, you know, they're going in. I thought they handled the expectation against Offaly very well. I thought they settled into the game in the second half. Every game was won in the last 20 minutes, Pat. We all know that. And I think Dublin will win this game again in the last 20 minutes. It won't be a walk in the park, because Westmeath will really put it up. They'll tear into Dublin. Shaughnessy in the middle of the field is now back. He's a big man to get first phase possession. And they're defensively, as John pointed out earlier, they are very good, Westmeath.
John, you give Westmeath a chance?
I give them a chance, but at the end of the day, I would feel, to be honest, at this stage, that Dublin would be my favourites to win the All-Ireland.
Why?
So, because I think they have developed, they have improved, they have strengthened, they have pace, they have options, and I think that, on what I've seen of all of the teams involved, I think they're the most complete team at this stage.
But a lot of people will say that these are the same bunch that have yet to deliver over the last couple of years. Why now?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're asking me to make a call on it, and based on, there has been no outstanding team that far ahead. I would say Dublin, Armagh, with Dublin slightly ahead.
And Dublin are still a young team, Pat. They're still learning their trade. A lot of those lads are still only 22, 23 years of age. This Dublin team is better this year than it was last year, and that's progress. And if Dublin can get into an All-Ireland semi-final, you're down to the last four, and it's there for everybody then.
That brings us to the last game. If Laois beat Mayo, they could be playing Dublin again. What do you think? I
don't think Laois will beat Mayo, Pat. By the way, I didn't get your letter of congratulations for getting the Connacht final right when I tipped Mayo. I don't think on present form Mayo will win an All-Ireland, but I think they're good enough to get past Laois.
Why aren't they good enough to win an All-Ireland?
Well, I mean, they haven't delivered in recent years, and they haven't played that well this year, but I think they will improve and will get past Laois. I think Laois as well will win an All-Ireland, but not in 2006.
They'll get past Laois? Mayo?
Well, no, I'm
going to go... a Mayo man, Tommy.
I am, Pat, I am. And there was a crisis again there this week, and maybe crises are what generate the bond in the team. And I don't know, I just think Laois have done a very good job. I think they're up and running again. And before the Dublin match, everybody thought Laois were favourites.
Right, so briefly, the four winners, John?
The four winners I'd go for would be Donegal, Armagh, Dublin and Mayo.
Tommy?
Kerry, Cork, Dublin and Laois.
OK. Now, next weekend sees another mighty set of fixtures as August dawns in the championship season of 2006. On Saturday, there's a fine doubleheader in store at headquarters with two quarter-finals in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. Munster champions Cork meet Donegal for a place in the semi-final, with Armagh facing Kerry in a repeat of the All-Ireland final of 2003. Then on Sunday, hurling takes centre stage. At 2 o'clock, Antrim face Carlow in the final of the Christie Ring Cup. And that's followed by a match that looks like being a right humdinger. All-Ireland winners Cork against Waterford in the first semi-final of the Senior Hurling Championship. And Park Live is on Wednesday night at 9:55 on RT2. Do join us next Sunday for highlights and analysis of all those matches. Gentlemen, thank you very much. For now, from all of us on the Sunday game, Slán, agus í Hiwa.